Hello, Mouse Planet. Alan Delinka back with you. Yes, I did unmute myself. How about that? It's been a long time since I've hosted one of the live shows here on Mouse Planet. So welcome everyone to the one person who gave the angry face during the pre-show. I sure hope that's about Disney Genie and not about Mouse Planet Live being live. Let me bring up Adrian Vincent Phoenix because we promised an East and West discussion. There's Adrian. Welcome, Adrian. Adrian, you are muted. I need to unmute you, I think. There we go. Welcome, Adrian.
Hey there.
Yeah, I'm losing my touch. It's been a while since I've hosted and controlled the board at the
I
same time.
know. Hey, Alan. Oh
So
my gosh, so much going on.
well, there is a ton going on. We also have Todd Pickering in the green room. We'll bring Todd on for a moment,
Hey.
but then we'll put Todd back in the green room where he belongs, right? Welcome, Todd.
Hey, Todd. Nice hat.
Todd's microphone's not hooked up. That's why I'm glad I brought him on for a quick second here. Todd, you're going to need to adjust your microphone. I'm going to dump you back in the green room while you work on that. You might need to plug in your headset again, but I'm not hearing you at all. All right. So let's talk about what everybody on social media is talking about. Let's talk about the new, let's see, where did I put that graphic? The new Disney Genie program, which is going into effect at some date unknown in this fall. Basically, we'll talk about facts and then we'll talk about opinions. The facts are that Disney Genie itself is free. It's going to be part of the My Disney Experience app here in Florida for Walt Disney World. Out west, it's going to be part of the Disneyland app. It's a kind of artificial intelligence to help you plan your way through the day by constantly updating what might have a shorter wait time than something else based on preferences that you input at the beginning of your day. Then there's going to be two versions of paid options. The Genie Plus option, which is going to, for the West Coasters, look a lot like MaxPass did. For us in Florida, it's a paid version of what FastPass used to look like long before you could plan in advance because it's a one-off. In other words, you can make your first one in the morning, but then you can only make a new one each time you've finished off the last one. Then there's finally the Lightning Lane. They haven't talked about pricing on this yet, but some of the most in-demand attractions and the ones that they keep giving examples here in Florida are the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, and out west they talk about Radiator Springs Racers. Do I got the name right, Adrian?
Yep.
Those two rides will not be part of the Genie Plus, but you can buy a specific time. There was some discussion in a post by Jeffrey Epstein of D23 in a conversation with Josh D'Amaro, the Disney Parks chairman, that you'd be able to buy it for Rise of the Resistance. But interestingly, none of the collateral material has talked about that anywhere yet. Did I give the factual rundown here just about right, Adrian?
You did, and you tripped over the thing that everybody is tripping over, which is the nomenclature. So when you talk about Disney Genie Plus, That is just an upgrade service which gives you access to the Lightning Lane. The Lightning Lane is available in two formats, two flavors of Lightning Lane, as you will. The first is that, I mean, Lightning Lane basically replaces the Fast Pass return entrance. And so you can either access the Lightning Lane via Disney Genie Plus, where you can make your your wait time reservations and you can hold one at a time, or you can access Lightning Lane by purchasing an individual attraction selection, which is the add-on on top of the add-on, for those attractions which are considered to be the highest demand attractions. So
Well, but
Lightning Lane is
I
actually
think
the term
I
for the
think
return
I,
time.
but I think part of the confusion here is that certain attractions you can buy the Lightning Lane for are
Mhm.
not going to be part of Genie Plus.
Right.
And
And
that's
that's
what they keep
where
talking about in the fine print, right?
yeah, and that's where it gets really confusing to people because Lightning Lane is just the method by which you return to the attraction. How you get into the Lightning Lane varies, whether you do it via Genie Plus, which has the selection of attractions that you can make a return time for, or if you do it off the one or two attractions where you're buying that ticket. And
And
Disney
then
said that you can buy a maximum of two of those Lightning Lane admissions per day. So you're not going to spend the entire day. Um, you can't hop right to the Resistance 45 times if you want.
but it is, when you use the word hop, it is good for park hopping because, for example, you could buy it if they're available. You could buy it for Rise of the Resistance here at Disney's Hollywood Studios and say Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. Those would be
Mhm.
your two if you had park hopping.
Right, it is
And
well, for Walt Disney World, at least, we know that it will be available for park hopping, and we're going to assume that it will be also for the Disneyland Resort. I don't know, and this is where, this is why when we were chatting yesterday, I said it's so difficult because the 2 resorts have such different operational practices, and it's hard to keep track of who does what. For your park hopper, is that an all-day thing, or do you have to wait until 1 o'clock to hop parks?
well, right now, park hopping does not open until 2 o'clock.
Oh, okay.
The interesting thing, I said we'd go facts first, but the interesting little opinion area here to me is that Disney keeps talking about all this in terms of improving spontaneity. And frankly, they use these words in a way that I find a little disingenuous because they go hand in hand with the continuation of the Park Pass reservation system, which to me as a local takes away all spontaneity. I have to make a decision to make a Park Pass reservation before I even get in the car and drive over to the resort and make a decision of where I'm going. In the old days, when I was coming from out of town, I used to play what I called Disney bus roulette. If I was staying somewhere far away, like Disney Saratoga Springs Resort, I would, check into my hotel, go out to the bus stop and say, okay, first bus wins, right?
Nice.
That's how I would choose my first park of the day of some of the trips that I took down here over the years. So that level of spontaneity is gone. Although having said that, park pass reservations are more plentiful now than they were earlier during the pandemic because from all appearances, there doesn't seem to be much cap on attendance below whatever the actual cap on occupancy of the parks is right now.
Right.
But let's go back to the factual discussion because there are just a couple of other smaller points in terms of what else is included. In Florida, right now, those of us who are still annual pass holders, we have unlimited Photopass downloads as part of our annual pass entitlement. We don't know what the status of new annual passes are. California, of course, doesn't yet have its annual pass program in place. That's August 25th, I seem to recall. Is that
Right.
right, Adrian?
Yes.
And we'll talk about the magic keys and all in a bit. But the Photopass entitlement that comes with Genie Plus is a little bit different for the two coasts. The West Coast version will include, like MaxPass used to, unlimited photos during the day of use. In Florida, it was a little vaguer and it includes some AR lenses, some artificial, what do you call it, augmented
Augmented
reality.
reality. Yeah.
Yeah, so that Mickey can be behind you or above you, sort of like what magic shots are, but with more 21st century digital flair to them, let's say.
Well, and
It's
apparently if you have TikTok, you already have access to some of those augmented reality lenses
Well, and we
for
we
TikTok.
wrote. I was going to say we wrote about this as they introduced some of them here in Florida. I
Mhm.
assume they're going to introduce a whole bunch more. There's some audio experiences, which when they demonstrated on the video on the website, is just a little beeping noise. I assume there'll be more to the audio experience than what the demo is currently showing.
I expect that to be location based, and I actually wonder if that's not going to piggyback on the My Pal Mickey setup. If you
It
rem
didn't look like it in the app. It looked like you actually had to push the button once you got to like the demo had you got to Cinderella Castle, and then there was a button that said play audio experience.
Well, but My Pal Mickey did too. You got to a certain area and he just giggled and you pressed his hand and it would play that supplemental audio.
I
So, I mean,
gotcha.
I'm okay. I loved that system. I love that little Mickey. And so I'm actually kind of happy to see some elements of that legacy system still out there. I'm hoping that's what they're using. Even if it's not transponder based, if it's just location based. But I mean, that's actually going to be interesting. And I'll be really curious to see what bonus content they have there. And that's going to be for those of us that are, the Disney nerds that want to do the true deep dive, especially with guided tours suspended right now. That's kind of something interesting, a nice little bonus. But yeah, you guys already have Photopass downloads over there. But for pass holders, when the Magic Keys were announced here, and they said, there was no mention of Photopass and there was no mention of MaxPass, we were like, "Oh, okay, here it comes." So I'm glad to see that there's still going to be an option with MaxPass to get Photopass, but they've also continued with the Photopass product that we have here, which is Photopass plus 1 week, and so that's still going to be available for purchase. What about Memory Maker? Somebody's asked
Yeah,
about
I
what's going on
and
with it
I
there.
was gonna turn to that. I mean, Memory Maker is the product that they sell in both one-day flavor and longer flavor, I should say, because the longer flavor is length of stay, but it's not all that well defined. And honestly, I've never used it because since I've been a local, it's been part of the annual pass entitlement. The Memory Maker package is still available for sale. I've still seen it in the parks when I'm there, and none of the announcements that came out this week talked about it at all.
Yeah,
In fact, the last time I saw a press release about, photo pass opportunities, it was saying, don't forget you can buy your one-day memory maker, you can buy your pass. So it's unclear how memory maker is going to intermix with this. One of the questions I think you tweeted at me on behalf of a follower
mm,
on our Twitter yesterday, how Rise of the Resistance is going to work between the virtual and the paid options is not clear yet, right? I mean, that's something that's yet to come, and hopefully we'll get some clarification ahead of whenever the press release comes. The question I think that you posed to me for folks who don't follow us specifically on Twitter was, 7 a.m. rolls around. That's right now when the virtual queue opens for Rise of the Resistance. That's also in theory when hotel guests will be able to purchase their Lightning Lane access, which, like I said, Josh Damaro suggested was going to include Rise of the Resistance. Um, are you going to have to force which direction you're going to pick? What is the genie going to offer in terms of options? We don't know at this point.
I
If
can
you get
foresee. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, if you get to 9 o'clock when the park opens, you've missed your 7 a.m. window to get in. You get to the park opening at 9 o'clock. Are you now going to have an opportunity to purchase, right? Or are the purchases all going to be sold out at that 7 a.m. window? Will there be the 1 p.m. window that we currently have? The 1 p.m. window is different than your window because our 1 p.m. window for making that second boarding group reservation does not allow park hoppers to participate in that because park hoppers have to be physically in the park and you can't be in the park until 2 p.m.
Right.
Well, and again, this goes to the more opinions part where they talk about it being simpler. I have yet to see a single person in a social media feed say that this system is simpler than what we have now. It's just different. I don't know that it's more
Oh,
complicated. Go ahead, Adrian.
well, no, I would disagree with that. I appreciate that I do not have to decide 60 days in advance what 3 FastPass Plus selections that I wanna make. I already resent that I have to decide what I want for dinner 2 months in advance. I mean, I can't even do that tonight. I'd have no idea what I want for dinner tonight. I cannot begin to tell you what I'm going to wanna eat in 60 days. I really resent the part where they actually want me to order my food 60 days in advance so you can pre-order meals. That's
But
absurd. So
But you
this
do
is a
have to
little bit
pick.
easier.
But you do have to for especially here in Florida, but I'm sure out in California too, you still have to pick your park,
Yes.
especially if you want to go on a busy day.
Yep.
And you can pick your park up to 180 days out, which is one of the only things that hasn't changed here in Florida. I don't know what the number is for you guys in California. Um,
It depends on what type of admission you have.
So, I mean, you still have to make that initial park decision far out, and there's the multi failure to show up rule where you can get locked out altogether if you're an annual pass holder, or when the keys start to come into effect. If you have multiple misses as a key holder, the gatekeeper will keep you out. How's that for crossing IPs?
Did you cross your streams? Um, I was wondering if we could bring Todd in because I think we can actually use Todd um, to go through the Disney Genie options
I
because
got I
Todd
got
has
one
nothing
I've
but the
got one
program.
comment that came in that I
Oh,
think we should talk about before, which is this question. You have to purchase the Genie Plus the day of your reservation if you're staying on property. And that answer right now is yes. If you want Genie Plus, then you have to make the purchase on the day you're using it. I don't believe they're selling the Genie Plus in advance.
do you?
What?
Because I'm pretty certain that you can purchase Genie Plus. I'm pretty sure that you can make that purchase for the length of your ticket.
I have not seen that yet, at least
Okay.
not in the Florida collateral. But again, they didn't invite me to the press conference, so I could have missed the fact that you heard in a press conference.
Well, and you should see the collateral we got. It wasn't. It's a lot of infographics that all conflict. I mean, not they don't conflict. They restate the same thing in a different color. So what my understanding no is that you can purchase length of stay Disney Genie, and that if you have a multi-day ticket, that you can select some, none, or all of the days.
So that's a question we're going to need to get clarified
Okay.
because, like I said, I have not seen it clear here. If you buy Rise of the Resistance Lightning Lane access and it's not available till 3, does that mean you can't use regular Lightning Lane access till 3? I'm not sure I know what regular Lightning Lane is, but
Genie Plus. Um, no, those are going to be completely separate inventory pools. Those are going to
and
be
well,
separate
but they
admissions.
had also said that this attraction was not going to be on Genie Plus. That was what the confusion was before. There is no standby. There's only virtual queue, which is free, and lightning access for Rise of the Resistance in the short term, according to what they've published so far.
My understanding, and I will eat my Mickey ears here if I'm wrong on this, is that if you purchase Lightning Lane, if you purchase a single attraction admission, that is a completely separate thing and has absolutely no bearing on your other Disney Genie Plus selections. And I
Gotcha.
will
And
eat
then
my Mickey ears if I'm wrong.
Beatrice says that you can purchase Genie Plus in advance. So there you have it,
Yeah.
if that's the case.
Um,
So let's bring Todd in and go through the scenarios you want. Let's make sure his mic is working. Todd, are you there?
I'm here. Is my mic working?
Todd, are
Yay!
you there? Todd?
Yeah, it was actually my physical mic that was on mute, not
I
the.
mean, I could have
Oops.
just gone with this one here.
I'm called Todd Pickering. Yes, that is my name. I'm here every Wednesday. I walk of fame.
God,
With
I'm
a
so
nice-
Alan
sorry.
Delinka, the best plugger in the world, my
Every
biggest
time we
fan.
bring
Thank you.
in,
The nice thing is these things are all still here. I mean, I could also go with the one that Adrian just
No,
loves, which is, you know,
no,
Todd doesn't love that anymore.
nobody
So I am
loves
totally
that.
confused.
Okay,
All right.
I can help you.
all
Are
right.
you
Well,
ready?
let me put Adrian in the big box,
Okay.
and we'll have her help Todd in the small box. Let's do it this way. All right,
No.
and I'll
Nobody
stay.
gets me.
Okay.
You know what?
No, that's good.
I'll even
That's
turn off
good.
my
I
camera
can
and
see
we'll
you.
leave my mic on. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. So,
I'm here.
okay. So let me see what I got from what you said first, and then you can help me. So is Genie Plus the same for both Disney World and Disneyland?
Ish.
Ish. Okay. That's a one-word answer that I got. So far, okay.
It cost more at Disneyland than Disney World per day.
It cost more at Disneyland than at Disney World. That doesn't make
Yes.
sense, but okay.
Actually, there's an explanation for that. I'm not saying it's a good one. There just is an explanation. And that's because it was debuted here at Disneyland at $10 per person. It's since gone up to $20 per person, but we all know how it works here. And so it's not a new product to us. So we're just going to keep paying the $20 a person. Whereas for Florida, it's both a new untested product and Florida Floridians, visitors to Walt Disney World tend to have longer stays. And so it's a greater cost over the period of the stay. And so it's a little lower introductory price, but that doesn't mean anything. You know,
But-
No, it's buy 3 days, get the fourth free
Ah,
compared to
But-
the Disneyland pricing.
but
Go ahead, Todd.
Okay, Todd, I have for you a question. Okay.
Mhm.
You, Todd, now have purchased your $154 day ticket to Disneyland. It's a 1-day, 1-park ticket to Disneyland.
Okay.
Okay. How much are you willing to spend for additional services? Say 0.
0.
Perfect. Then what I have for you is the Disney Genie system, which is going to be a digital virtual assistant that is going to help you plan your itinerary. You're going to tell the Disney Genie what you want to do, and like Waze, it's going to tell you how to do that in the shortest route possible. But it will direct you to the standby lines for any attraction that you want to visit. You will still be able to use mobile ordering. You will still be able to make dining reservations at restaurants that take reservations through the app. You will be able to go in and tweak your itinerary if you get to Big Thunder Mountain and the line's 180 minutes and you decide, I don't want to do that. You can check that off your list and it'll move you on to the next thing. It will still potentially send you push alerts of, hey, you skipped Big Thunder Mountain earlier, but the line's only 30 minutes now. Do you want to go do that? So that is the Disney Genie service, and that is free for you to use during your visit.
And that's
the
on my app.
I was going to
It
say,
comes with my app.
The screenshot that they've shown, if you take a look in the box that I froze it on, shows that it's going to suggest that a good time to ride would be, and it's going to be predictive in terms of the wait time is lower than usual or higher than usual or whatnot. So that's all right in the My Disney Experience app.
But that was already on the app. We just turned the app on and clicked the map and saw what all the waits were and said, oh my gosh, look, Alice in Wonderland's 10 minutes and it's been 30 all day. So we'll go over there. Correct?
Adrian just dropped out. I'm not sure why. And she
Oh,
waited till
well,
took a bite of
that
food.
question was too much for her. So here's my question that didn't get answered that maybe you can answer. I mean, here, so then those
I'll bring you back in, Adrian. I see you in the green room. Go
there
ahead,
she
Todd.
is. Rise of the Resistance and Web will those still go in effect, the virtual queues, or is that what the Lightning Lane is now?
Yeah, they're keeping virtual queues, at least for now, for some of the attractions, and those will be available also through the My Disney Experience or Disneyland app, just as they have been. Welcome back, Adrian.
Okay. Well, I was gonna get to that because I have another question for Todd. Okay. And
Okay.
Alan, I don't know if I just posted a link to the internal chat. If you can put that screen up, or if you can share my shared screen in there with us.
Well, I also have this in our gallery.
Okay, great.
Here.
If you can put that up with us.
Go ahead. Oh, with
Okay.
you?
Yep.
To the side?
Yep.
All right. That takes another step. Go ahead, Adrian.
Okay. So Todd, you now
Yes.
have your $154 ticket, 1-day, 1-park ticket to Disneyland.
Mm-hmm.
Are you willing to spend $20 extra for the day?
For what are they? They're not called fast passes. What are we calling
Disney
them now?
Genie Plus.
So they're just called Disney Genie Plus passes, I guess.
They're called Lightning Lane. Are you willing to spend an extra $20?
Yes.
Perfect. Then I have Disney Genie Plus for you. Disney Genie Plus is just like Max Pass for Californians. It's kind of like Fast Pass Plus for Floridians that know what that was. The idea is that you can make a digital return time, a reservation for a return time using Disney Genie Plus, and it will be most of the attractions, not all, most of the attractions that offered Fast Pass or Fast Pass Plus in the past. So you can tell it at 7 o'clock in the morning that you want to go on these rides, and it's going to offer you the opportunity for your first ride to make a Lightning Lane reservation. This is where the nomenclature gets wonky. The Lightning Lane is the return lane. It's the Fast Pass return. So for $20, you have access to that all day, one attraction at a time. So say Big Thunder Mountain was your first attraction. You get off of that. You can now make a Lightning Lane reservation for the next attraction. and so on and so on and so on as the day goes. And again, because you're using Disney Genie already, it's going to route you through the attractions that you want. Now, when you make your next Lightning Lane reservation and you've got maybe 45 minutes until that comes due, it's going to suggest to you, hey, here's an attraction that you said you wanted to do that doesn't even have Lightning Lane. So why don't you go do that now? Or maybe it's a good time for a churro. Or didn't you say you wanted to go watch the Main Street Cinema? It's going to recommend to you that you do those things while you're waiting for your Lightning Lane return times to mature. Okay? Yes, sir.
So then do I put my itinerary in so they know I want to ride Big Thunder Mountain that day?
So in the morning, well, theoretically, you can do this anytime before your visit, that you can talk to the genie and tell it what you want to do. You can tell it, I really like thrill rides and I love Star Wars. And it will come up with an itinerary based on those things. Or you can say to it, okay, now look, Genie, I'm doing Big Thunder Mountain, I'm doing Matterhorn bobsleds, I'm doing Mad Tea Party, and I'm doing It's a Small World. And I'm going to have lunch at Red Rose Tavern, and I've got a reservation for Blue Bayou. And so it will route those things for you. So it can be as vague or as specific as you want it to be with what you tell it that you want to do. And then it will take all of that and toss it up and come out with an itinerary for you.
Wow, that doesn't per your conversation with Alan at the beginning, that is like the very not definition of spontaneous.
Well, it's kind of like the conversation that I have with my kids when we go to the parks of, okay, kids, we cannot do everything. So each of you pick an attraction that you absolutely must go on, and we're going to create our plan around doing that. Only now you're telling the genie, and the genie's using all of its proprietary Disney information to figure out the best way for you to do that, whilst probably nudging you in the direction of ways that you can spend money while you're waiting for your rights.
Exactly. So I have a Florida question.
Yes.
So when you go to Disney World and it's so big, and per Alan talking about choosing the bus to get on, which you can't do if you have park reservations. I think if you're traveling to Disney World and you know you're going 6 months later, I mean, I was be excited to make 3 reservations. I do know what attractions I want to ride. Is that off the table now completely?
Yep. FastPass Plus is gone. You are making them one at a time starting that morning.
But with this new system, you'll be able to get those, like the 3 you wanted, by using the Lightning lanes.
You hope.
Well, but what I mean is, if those are the 3 attractions you would have booked 6 months in advance, then those are the 3 you start with on your Lightning lane, and you'll get on them.
You hope. Again, you're doing them one at a time. And so if your first Lightning lane, you know, if you choose poorly and your first Lightning lane doesn't come due until 1 o'clock.
I'm sorry. You're going to say, as soon as you say choose poorly, you've taken the simplicity out of it, right?
I know.
Because
well,
that's where we start to get back into the opinion discussion, which is, you know, it still relies on you, the guest, knowing a whole heck of a lot.
Well, hopefully the genie says, okay, these are the 3 rides you want to do. This is the order you should do them in so that you can maximize your Lightning lane access.
I was going to say, so the genies will probably be, if there's only 3 rides you want to, okay, I've never been on Rock and Roller Coaster. I've never been on Rock and Roller, which I haven't. And what else is, I've never been on Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, which is true. Unless just the third one's a lie. I've never been on Rise of the Resistance is on the virtual queue, but I've never been on Millennium Falcon, which I have been on. Say those are the 3 at Disney Studios. Well, I will, sorry, there's noise in the kitchen. Well, I will get to get on those 3 rides if I use the Genie Plus, because it's going to say, well, everybody went to Star Wars Land and the you know, like, don't go now, ride the other 2. Yeah. Oh, look, everybody's left for now. And it's, you should be able to ride your top 3 is the point.
That's my guess. I mean, that's really my guess. And, you know, talking with, you know, friends in low places about how many fast passes guests actually used during a normal day under fast pass, it was about 3. So yeah, I think your odds of getting onto those 3 attractions is good. And that's actually why Fast Pass Plus was set the way it was. People were angry about, well, I can't do 10 Fast Passes. You never did 10 Fast Passes anyway.
Right.
If you did, you were an outside case. Okay, so now, Todd, we're going back to here's your mythical day. You have your $154 ticket. It is 7:00 in the morning.
Okay.
You tried to get a boarding group for Rise of the Resistance and you were denied.
What?
How much are you willing to pay to ride that ride anyway?
Rise of the Resistance, $10.
Then I've got an option for you.
For $10, I don't know about that.
You can purchase the opportunity to get near Rise of the Resistance for $10. But for $20, I'm actually going to let you have a boarding group.
$20 for one attraction?
That is hypothetical. Sorry, Disney, this is hypothetical. We don't actually know what that's going to be.
But based on the price they're charging per euro
Yes.
for Disneyland Paris for
And
various
that's what I
attractions.
was saying. That's where I'm
Yes.
coming up with this magical $20 is that this is simple. This is similar to the Premier Access Pass that just debuted in Disneyland Paris, where you can buy fast passes for a set price per attraction. Now, it is dynamic pricing. It depends on the length of the standby line. It depends on the in-park capacity at that time. And the prices that we've seen run from 5 to 15 euros, which can be up to about $20. So yeah, the possibility is that you miss that 7 a.m. Boarding group opportunity that you didn't get in, but that for $20 you can get in after all. Yes, sir.
But you're saying $20 for just that one attraction only.
Yep. And
Wow.
you can do a maximum of 2 premier attractions a day. And we don't know necessarily what they're going to be. And now what's frustrating to me is that, it seems that they've taken Radiator Springs Racers out of the normal Fast Pass queue. So it won't be available through Disney Genie Plus anymore. And they've made it as one of the Lightning Lane attractions. So the Lightning Lane Plus, they've got to come up with better nomenclature. This is awful. They've made it one of the priority, the premier, the added cost, the individual attraction selections. That's literally the term, IAS. That's the term. Really? Who comes up with these things?
So
who was in that meeting?
So Genie Plus is different so there'll be a Genie Plus queue and a Lightning Lane queue?
No, then that's where it gets really...
That's where it gets confusing.
It is. Lightning Lane is just the name of the return line. How you get into Lightning Lane depends on whether or not you went in through Genie Plus or whether you bought an individual attraction selection.
So I guess they're going to just call that individual attraction selection.
That's what they're calling it. That's the official name.
No, it's just, okay. Yeah, it is confusing because it's hard to use these terms.
It's not a good acronym. I don't know why they didn't just keep with Max Pass Plus, but
let me put up on the screen one of the other screen caps from the website, and that looks like this one here, where they have the division within the My Disney Experience or Disneyland app between the tip board information and the My Day information.
Oh,
and as a local, to me, the more useful is probably going to be the tip board, because I'm not going to plan a day as a local. I'm not on vacation. I'm just popping over to the park. But the tip board is going to be a customized list of just the attractions that I've told the app I'm interested in, telling me what their current wait times are. So I don't have to start pinch zooming all over their map or get into that list and scrolling through the map. It'll be a one-stop shop that's updated in as real time as their IT permits, with the current standby times at various attractions. And at least according to the screen cap that they've put on the website, and the website is disneyworld.com/Disney Genie for those who haven't checked it out yet. And I think there's a similar one, Disneyland.com/Disney Genie, that has the slight differences between the Florida and California flavors of this. But the dynamic nature of the Genie is the truly new piece that Disney's providing here, where you'll be able to customize and get the information you want in a centralized place instead of having all of the data and then having to go through the various menus to find it. That's I think the enhancement of Disney Genie, if I've spotted one so far.
Yeah, and that's getting into such nitty gritty detail on it. And that's, somebody in the comments made a comment. Gloria said that it sounds good if she has her daughter or granddaughter along to handle it on the phone. And that is the thing, is that this whole program is geared towards digital natives. And it's going to require, I hate staring at my phone all day. When I'm at Disneyland, I don't want to do that. I want to be playing with my kids. I want to be looking around. I want to be enjoying the atmosphere, not going, what do I do next? What do I do next? What do I do next? And if you're not a digital native or not terribly comfortable using this technology, you're having to dive into it. I made a joke yesterday in an interview I did that the explainer video that Disney put up for Disney Genie is 14 minutes. You can't elevator pitch this. There's no simple explanation for it. Disney's official video is 14 minutes. There's all of these infographics and that restate the same information over and over, but in different colors, because it's so much. And we'll get it. Of course, we'll get it. We eventually get it. But trying to just explain it to people, I did a kind of an Ask Me Anything on Twitter yesterday. And the questions that people were coming up with, there's a lot of nuance to this, and there's a lot of one-off case scenarios, and there's a lot of, somebody was asking me, does rider swap change? Baby swap, does that change? The official answer is no. But there's so many little things in this that you've got to kind of dig in to figure out.
In theory, it sounds great. It sounds like, no, it does. I mean, I'm going to be positive after listening to it and thinking about it. It sounds like it's going to say, don't go over. I'm not waiting 45 minutes for Alice in Wonderland, even though the kids want to write it. It's too long. It's nice to know that.
As my friend Liz says in the comments just now, if money's no object, you could do a VIP tour, right? And that's the ultimate pay to play, where the VIP tour gets you that backdoor access to the attractions and gets you the no wait scenarios, and that's a very viable option. And if that's the route you want to go, that's certainly available to people.
Actually, Alan, I was wondering if you would go through a couple of the comments, because Liz was also asking, if money's no consideration, would you pay the $20 per selected ride twice a day? You also get to pay $20 per day. So the thing about this program is that you can use all of the offerings, none of them, or a combination of them. If you want to pay for the individual attraction selections, you can do that without buying Disney Genie Plus. So if that's,
you're not paying $15 plus whatever the ride cost is. You're paying the $15 for whatever's available within Genie Plus, and or you're paying for the 2 individual rides for which you choose times and pay for separately.
No. You can pay the $20 for Disney Genie Plus, or you can pay.
That's what I said. And
for the 2. Yeah, you got your terms mixed up, but yes, you don't have to do both. You don't have to buy Disney Genie Plus in order to also pay for individual attraction selections.
That's right. But you can choose to do so, is what I was saying. You can totally choose to do that. So you can also choose to join Club 33. You can also choose to do the VIP tour.
Right.
Actually, on VIP tour, though, I do understand that the Rise of the Resistance is being added to the attractions that are available through that. That's not official, but that's what I understand through Club 33.
And what's the VIP tour?
Oh, the VIP tour is a completely different thing. That's the $300 to $350 an hour.
That's the plaids, is what you're saying.
The plaids, yes.
And it's called the VIP tour, and it's available in both coasts.
Yes.
And all the parks. God, I just wanted, again, nomenclature.
An article on it somewhere on MousePlanet.
Right. Well, I just always call them the plaids, and I won the VIP tour for the 60th anniversary. I don't know if you remember that.
No.
Remember the day you just would text in Tink, and it was my friend's kid's birthday, and we happened to have a party of 10 show up.
Nice.
And all the fast passes were sold out by the time they got there, and they thought I was joking them, and I thought I was joking them. You know, meaning, so I have experienced a VIP tour, and because it's not affordable for me at all.
No.
But it's pretty amazing. But I mean, you know, it's expensive. What is it? $350 an hour?
Yeah, the price varies. It's dynamic pricing based on time of year, but yeah.
Right. But it's like, but it's also a minimum, correct? Like you have to do
8
5
hours.
hours?
8 hours.
Wow.
At least in
so do the
California,
math
I think
there.
it's 8 hours, and it's up to 10 people. Ryan was saying that Disney Genie seems like a good solution to load balance by steering guests around the park. It is.
Yes.
And there was a book called Utopia, which was a mock theme park, kind of a dystopian theme park situation, where it's so funny. If you go back and read that book, it was a Lincoln Child and Douglas Preston, I think, wrote it. Go find that book. It's actually really good because there's so many things in that I assume an Imagineer had to have participated somehow in the writing of the book, because there's so many things in that have actually come to pass in terms of what Disney's technology is offering. But one of the things it did was, it could track where everybody was in the park, and then it could steer guests towards attractions that were being underutilized. You know, My Pal Mickey was supposed to do that too. I seem to remember you could get a push notification from My Pal Mickey that was like, hey, there's not much of a line over at Big Thunder Mountain. You might want to go try that out. But let's see. Somebody was asking,
and the difficulty with all this is going to come down to how dynamic the tech is, and you know, as I've seen a lot of people comment on social media, just how robust Disney's Wi-Fi is.
yes,
I can tell you that Disney Wi-Fi historically has not been so reliable. Anytime we've tried to do a live broadcast from the park, I definitely have to turn off Disney Wi-Fi because that will definitely knock us off. And as you guys saw when we tried to go live during the fireworks debut, even with limited attendance in the park, the cellular towers aren't necessarily all that reliable either. And I can tell you, living about 3 miles from that cell tower behind Magic Kingdom, if Magic Kingdom's busy, my cell reception here at home suffers,
right.
because you know there's only so much bandwidth available. And when I talk about pushing everything to that 7 a.m. spot, and I'm not a morning person, but right now at 7 a.m. every morning, Disney servers here in Florida are getting, or wherever the servers emanate to Florida's resort, the Floridas are getting slammed at 7 a.m. every morning with all the guests trying to get that Rise of the Resistance boarding group. Now you're going to add all the hotel guests or anybody else who has that privilege of making a 7 a.m. Fast Pass Plus, Genie Plus, Lightning Lane reservation to that server at 7 a.m. That's going to require bandwidth. The hotel bandwidth was never all that wonderful either. It was sometimes good and sometimes not so good. So if you're pushing everybody to tech, and at one particular point in time, you're putting a lot of stress on that network that hopefully the network is ready for. But you know, maybe that's why it's sometime in the fall. Maybe some of those network enhancements. And I say this in some seriousness. I mean, I didn't go to last year's Disney Vacation Club annual meeting, but I was at the one before, where Terry, the vice president of DVC, was saying that one of the upgrades on DVC's list over several years was getting the Wi-Fi better in the DVC resorts. But if that's not keeping pace with what they're pushing out to consumers, you know, that's going to be a lot of guest relations issues come the rollout.
There were a couple of more comments in here that I wanted to go through real quick. Linda asked if it was replacing the Touring Plans app. Well, no, because it's completely separate companies. Touring Plans is a private business and they've got their own thing. This is Disney's branded version of the Touring Plans app using Disney proprietary data. So where Touring Plans information is in a lot of cases crowdsourced, the wait times especially, this is going to be using Disney's proprietary data. So I think there's still value in using Touring Plans. You know, we've not talked with them in a while. I haven't used their product in a while, but I think that for some people, there may really still be a value in using touring plans, but I am going to be really curious to see what Len and the gang over there does with all of this
Well,
happening.
I would think it takes them some time before their data can reflect the new world established by the system Disney's putting in
Yep.
place, because
Yep.
their data is particularly useful for the pre-pandemic time. But
Right.
is their data useful in the current time or the post-pandemic time? You know, time will tell.
Right. Gloria asked if Genie will be needed to get the photos by cast members with the magical inserts. No, as far as I understand, that you can still get the enhanced photos from Photopass, but what Genie Plus will give you are the augmented reality photos through the app. But as far as I understand, the magic photos through Photopass are still going to be available.
So I got to
Somebody
get
was-
running
Oh,
while you answer the
Todd,
rest of the questions. It's okay.
good to see you. Thanks for
This
being our
is-
guinea pig.
Oh, no. I kind of on purpose was like I got the alerts, and yeah, I mean, I feel better about it because you're so good at explaining, the two of you, my Disney World, Disneyland expert. And
We digested it and spit it
yeah,
back
I mean,
out.
it's a learning curve, like you said, but it, fingers crossed, let's get that Wi-Fi increased. Agree with you. And, I figured out the virtual queue, so hopefully this one will work.
Okay. Bye, Todd. Good to see you, buddy.
Bye.
Goodbye, Todd.
Let's see. Gloria, or who was asking? Liz was asking if Lightning Lane will be limited. So what Disney tells me is that everything's going to be subject to capacity. And so for the extra paid attraction selections, there will be a limit to how many of those are available. They haven't said what that limit's going to be, and obviously that's going to be dynamic. But you've got to understand, we all know that we're dealing with a finite bucket of capacity here. And so if Disney says, okay, 95% of capacity for Rise of the Resistance is going to go to virtual queue, and we're going to hold 5% back for Lightning Lane, for paid Lightning Lane. Well, all of a sudden at $20 a pop, they're making how much money on that 5% capacity? Maybe that 5% capacity becomes 10% capacity, and maybe it becomes 15% capacity, which of course means that the virtual queue capacity goes down to 90% or 85%. And so that's one thing that I'm not real thrilled about with this. But of course, that's the dynamic at every single attraction, because you're still, standby capacity is this, and Lightning Lane capacity is this, and the more people we let buy Disney Genie Plus and use Lightning Lane, the fewer people are going to be able to experience that attraction by standby. And so that's the dynamic.
And if they're doing dynamic pricing, they can see that nobody's bought at $20 or $25 or $30. And so say 6 o'clock comes around and they say, hey, we're having a special. Now it's $15. Now it's,
Right.
And I wrote about this in the Disney World update 2 weeks ago, I think it was, after I rode Rise of the Resistance all by myself, and not just by myself in one car, by myself in the two cars that travel the attraction together. And I did so because there was nobody in the darn building, which I loved, but it also irritated me as a guest whose friend that I had spent most of the day with couldn't ride because our return time, our boarding group was a what do they call it, the backup boarding group. It was so late in the day, he was already on a plane out of town when our number got called, and I just drove back over to property and went on the ride. The way that the virtual queue works now is between the guests who abandon the queue because the number comes up at a bad time or they don't make it or for whatever reason, and the people who particularly give up their backup boarding group numbers. When all those people disappear, the building has excess capacity, right? I rode the ride at 7:30 on a night the park was open till 9. They were using whatever we're going to call it, the lightning lane. They were using the lightning lane to enter the building. It was not the main queue. I'd only been in this other entrance to the building a handful of times during the media day. Otherwise, we were in the main queue. And certainly every time I'd ridden using a boarding group, I'd been in the main queue. The interesting question becomes, is the system going to be dynamic enough to recognize excess capacity in a popular ride and push that out to guests? Because
I can't imagine it wouldn't be.
I mean, the number one thing that's gone through my head, and I'm not a morning person, as I keep saying. I'm the kind of guy who likes to go to the parks in the afternoon. I don't like to get up in time for a 7 a.m. rope drop or queue opening or whatnot. But more than that, I like hanging around the park till closing, and getting up for a 7 a.m. Virtual queue and staying till 9, 10, 11, or midnight is not something at my age that I'm as prone to do, especially in our Florida weather.
Hmm.
But Disney has said, or former Disney executives have said, like Lee Cockerell, who I heard give a speech some years ago, that there's a huge revenue source for Disney when they can get guests to stay those last few hours in the park.
Yep.
Because those last few hours in the park, people spend more on food and beverage and merchandise and whatnot.
Sure.
But when I was in Hollywood Studios a couple weeks ago, 7:30 comes around, the park was almost a ghost town,
Yeah,
right?
they roll the sidewalks up.
Because you could, I mean, Slinky Dog wasn't a walk on, but earlier in the day, it had been a 120-minute queue standby time. And I waited 35 minutes just before park closing because that's how empty the park was as the day went on. And like I said, Rise of the Resistance, it was empty inside.
Yeah.
So, whatever they do dynamically that pushes more guests to later in the day and doesn't penalize the people who don't succeed at 7 a.m., that makes me a happier guest.
I wonder, they did mention that Disney Genie, that you could tell it that you wanted pool time or nap time. I wonder, even if this isn't that initial rollout, if it's sometime in the future, you can tell it, I don't plan to start the day at 7 a.m. I'm not getting into a park until 11, and I'm going to spend 11 to 9. I wonder if you'll be able to tell it the hours, the window that you're planning on visiting, because it said that you could tell it you wanted pool time or a nap. And so I'm wondering if there's a way for it to cut out that break for you. Linda made an interesting comment. The VIP tour becomes more reasonable if you think about the cost of the rides, with 8 to 10 people. Sure. I mean, $20 a day for Max Power, Disney Genie Plus nomenclature, Adrian. Disney Genie Plus, $20 a day per person. And okay, so you've got 2 premium attractions that you're going to buy at $15 a day per person, $30, $300. So you're talking $500, for across 10 people. Yeah, that buys a couple hours of VIP tour. Maybe it does change the math a little bit. Of course, VIP tour still requires you to buy admission. So, I mean, VIP tour is never going to be the more affordable way to visit Disney, but maybe
Interestingly, it may actually be the more spontaneous way to do the day when they talk about all the spontaneity, because with your VIP guide, you get that much more flexibility than you have in this system.
Well,
Because
with the
you're not
VIP guide, you do sit down with them, or you do have a phone call with them prior to your tour, and you tell them what it is that you're looking to do. So, I mean, it is kind of like the Genie thing, where you tell them what you want to do, and you tell them where you want to eat and what shows you want to see, and they kind of map that out for you. At least in my experience.
So I think we've covered most of the
I
basics.
think we've beaten the Genie to death.
But let's now talk about it in some of the more abstract terms that folks are complaining about online. And the one that gets me the most as a former vacationer in Florida, and not so much as a local, is the notion that it's now one less thing that you get as a perk for staying at a Disney owned and operated hotel or one of their good neighbor hotels, right? Right now,
Yes.
the only perk that they've added from the new Genie Plus program to hotel guests is this little window at 7 a.m. where you get to make some bonus selections that other guests can't make until they're physically in the park at 9, 10, 11, whatever time the park opens.
I was surprised by that. I was expecting there to be a bigger perk for hotel guests. As far as I can tell, there isn't anything for Disneyland Resort visitors. Everybody's on the same playing field. I was surprised by that. I didn't know if, and maybe this rolls out in the future, where resort guests get to pre-select an attraction or something,
I mean, I was frankly surprised. Let me try it. There we go. I was frankly surprised that they rolled it out immediately as a pay for everything, right? I thought from a get them addicted sort of standpoint is you tell guests you've made a 1 week hotel reservation, and they very well could offer this as a perk, like they were offering free dining in the past. They very well could say, stay 7 nights, we'll give you 1 day Genie Plus, or we'll give you 2 days Genie Plus. And then people sample the Genie Plus and they buy more Genie Plus. That sort of technique has been used many times by many businesses, where you get people something for free, they like what they got for free, and then they're willing to pay for more.
You don't think
You know,
that's the new free dining?
it could very well be. As an annual pass holder, I thought, okay, you got me for 365 days a year. You can't throw in one free Genie Plus to get me to say, hey, this is cool.
Hmm.
I'd love to do this. Now, I mean, having said this, as a member of the media, I'm going to get perks probably at some point. I mean, I've certainly gotten them in the past. So I've gotten special access. But it seems to me that, I love my Disney magnets, but giving an annual pass holder something as an incentive to try this new paid service, that to me is a no-brainer. But I guess they think they're going to sell them right off the bat, and they probably will, because there's this pent-up demand for visiting Disney parks
I
that,
do. They're not giving anything away right now. I don't see them giving anything away. I see them using that promotional stuff next year, maybe. It could be the new free dining thing. It could be a new, a pass holder retention thing. But I mean, I don't see that. I right now, no, they're not going to give anything away. I was
no,
shocked to see
and
hotel
here in
discount.
Florida, we have gotten almost as a la carte as Disneyland in terms
Hmm.
of what you pay for and what you don't pay for. It started with paying to park at the hotels for day guests. It adds now all of these other new pay to play options, where Disney, in my estimation, is less special and unique and more like everybody else in the industry. And if you're like me, not liking everybody else in the industry, okay, Disney, you're joining the things about the industry I don't like. In terms of the revenue, I totally get it, right? I'm a Disney
Sure.
shareholder too, and I'm more than happy for Disney to find ways of making people happy and having them happily hand over their money. I don't have a problem with that. I do have a problem when they say, well, give us your money and we'll try to make things good for you. That
Right.
that order of things bothers me much more than make people happy, happy people pay more and do more.
Right.
But we'll see what comes next. Why don't you talk a little bit about the changes that have come to the disability access, because that's similar to line jumping, because it involves getting return times and coming back through special access lanes.
Yeah, well, the funny thing is they kind of buried this in the announcement, and this is a huge change that people that use the disability access service have been waiting for. I'm going to stop for 1 second and answer a question because it actually somewhat relates. Gloria was asking what the status of the Disneyland trams is. Right now, the parking lot trams are not operating. Do not know why. Officially, do not know why. Um, Unofficially, I hear that maybe they weren't maintained as well as they could have been during the pandemic, and that maybe they're just not quite ready to, I don't know, hit the
And
streets again.
and
Um,
here in Florida, they just spent an enormous amount of money reshaping the entrances of all four parks to accommodate new tramways and new tram design. But the trams have been sitting out in the sun all this time, and the rumors that I hear are employment related. That getting enough people around property to operate property as is has been challenging, and so adding the trams into the mix is yet another step beyond that.
yeah.
And I can't imagine it's a whole lot different out at Disneyland in that regard.
No, it's not, but it is definitely an issue in that they have not the trams are perhaps not service worthy at the moment. But um that said, the Toy Story parking lot is open. It has reopened, and they are running bus service from the Toy Story lot to the main entrance. And so, if um, transportation is something that you need, if you really don't want to walk that mile from the parking structure and back, then park in Toy Story and use the bus. So that's an option for you. But disability access service. So real quick primer for those who don't know what it is. It is for guests who cannot wait in a conventional line. It's a way for them to book a return time for an attraction and be able to wait someplace else, someplace seated, someplace in the shade, away from sun, in air conditioning, whatever, away from crowds, whatever the situation warrants. Um, and then be able to come back at the designated return time to board the attraction. It isn't cutting the line, it isn't skipping the line. It is taking the standby wait and waiting someplace else. The return time that you're issued is equal to the current standby wait for that attraction. So if I say I want to ride Radiator Springs Racers and they say to me, that's great, it's a 300-minute wait, that's how long my return time is. And so I spend those 5 hours waiting someplace other than standing in the line in the sun. It is,
Which of course was the theory of FastPass. I mean, that
yes,
was that the virtual entity stands in line for you during that
right.
time.
It is definitely a program that has been widely abused. There's that famous Forbes article about people who were renting themselves out as disabled tour guides for the benefit of their customers so that they could use their disability access service to skip rides. It has been the subject of many lawsuits, many of which are still ongoing, especially within the autism community, because, and I am speaking as a parent of an autistic child. um, there are situations in which you do not want to be in the queue with my autistic child if he dysregulates. And so, for those purposes, we have the DAS for that child so that we can wait our time for an attraction to board an attraction someplace where that child is not in close proximity to other people, where if he dysregulates, he's going to flail and he's going to hit somebody, or he's going to create an uncomfortable situation in queue for people. So it is a program that my family has personally used. It is something that we used when my husband, before he was using a wheelchair, when he was walking with a cane, um, and could not physically stand for any length of time in an attraction. Um, it is something that I've seen abused. I have seen people rent wheelchairs. I have seen people fake disabilities. I have seen people invent sun allergies, which is a real thing, but I've seen people fake it. And so, what is most interesting to me about all of this, two elements. One is that now it's virtual. You can go online up to 30 days before your visit, and you can do a virtual call, a video call with a cast member, and basically go through the process that you would if you were at City Hall, where you explain to the cast member the nature of the accommodation that you are requesting, and they determine whether or not you're eligible for the DAS. Now, that right there can be a very uncomfortable conversation because you're basically disclosing medical information to an hourly employee with no medical training. And so there's definitely a challenge in that. What we say to them is, this is my child, this is the difficulty my child has in waiting in a standard queue. And then they say to us, okay, well, this is the accommodation that we can give you. Florida's system's a little bit different than California's system, but basically you're still going to be having that conversation via video chat with a cast member now prior to your visit, which is great because it means you're not standing in line to do this. Because one of the most annoying things in my life is to have to stand in line at City Hall to demonstrate to a cast member with my child, to demonstrate for this cast member why it is that I can't stand in a line with his child. So as my child is literally spinning in circles and doing his thing in this line that I don't want to be in, it's so frustrating. So I'm glad that I'm going to be able to actually do this via video in advance. Going to be able to do this via video, and then they're going to let you make two selections, your first two DAS selections right there during the video chat, so that when you get to the park, you're not going through this whole process. You can just go straight to the attraction that you've chosen. And then after that, it's going to be a one-off. You use one, you get the next, you use one, you get the next, just like it is, like it works now. What is good for California, at least, is that the DAS is going to be valid for 30 days. So that you're not having to do this prior to each visit, which is great for annual pass holders.
And the Florida website said 60.
Oh, is it 60?
That's what I'm showing here on the screen is the Florida
Okay, it may
website.
be 60 here as well. I know that there was also a length of stay or 60 days. So if you're on a 10-day ticket, that's how long it's good for. If you're a pass holder, it can be up to 60 days. The 2 bonus DAS selections are only for the first time that you do it after the video call. So every time that you have to video call to recertify, then you get those two DAS selections. It's not every day that you visit. So, but the thing that's awesome. The fact that it's going to be virtual, that I don't have to go to guest relations, that I can make the selections from my phone now, which was not the case before. You used to actually go to a kiosk in person. So, you rode whatever your attraction was, and then you'd have to walk to the kiosk to make your next selection. Now this can all be done by the phone like Disney Genie. So I'm happy with that.
My hope is that here in Florida, they start figuring out to put those kiosks away from the main entrances of attractions, because at many attractions like Flight of Passage, it creates a huge bottleneck at the point of return where people are trying to negotiate their disability access. Others who are confused by Fast Pass historically, Lightning Lane going forward, they're all standing in the same spot, whereas other guests are just trying to get on, either enter
Right.
standby or enter return. So it's wonderful if they clear all that up, and adding some virtual aspects to that seems very helpful in that regard as well.
Well, I don't know how they did it for you guys in Florida, but here in California, the DAS kiosk, the plaid kiosk, for Rise of the Resistance is outside of Star Tours. It's outside of Galaxy's Edge, because apparently it was anachronistic to have it inside the land, and so it's right outside of one of the entrance tunnels.
Yeah, I don't think it's outside here in Florida. I believe, if I'm correct about which umbrella it is, I believe it's right near the entrance to Rise of Resistance, but not near the entrance where you go with a virtual return time.
Got it.
Because I believe it's one of the themed umbrellas, closer to the actual entrance of the attraction and not the entrance to the boarding groups.
So
but we have
from
a
my
question. We have a
standpoint, oh, go ahead.
Go
I was
ahead.
going to
I
wrap
was
up
going to say I was going to go to a different topic. Go ahead.
Okay, so wrapping up this from my standpoint, as somebody that has used this service in every one of its iterations for the past 20 years, this is all upside. I'm really excited about being able to do it in advance. I'm excited about it being on my phone. I'm excited about not having to navigate that situation while I'm there in the park and it's just done. What I'm really excited about is the thing that they added, that if they find that a guest has falsified information in order to obtain a DAS, that guest is going to be banned from property and unable to return to the Disney theme parks. And that, if nothing else, will cut down on the abuse, and that will make the entire experience better for every single park guest. It's going to be better for the guests that legitimately need DAS to not be dealing with the people that faked their way into the line. It's going to be better for the day guests who are not going to have their wait in line lengthened by people that shouldn't be in the DAS line to begin with. So I'm extremely glad to see that. I'm looking forward to that rolling out.
So Linda asked a question here. Let
Mhm.
me put it on the screen that I think will lead into our discussion about the
Mhm.
magic keys. She asked, at what point do we stop going or buying an AP,
Ooh.
right? And I mean, this is always everybody's conundrum. For me as a Floridian, the answer is pretty easy right now. The answer is the only thing that could really get me to change my mind about buying an annual pass is if the price of buying the Florida discount tickets that come about every now and again start to be at a price point where it is more attractive to just occasionally buy Florida passes to go visit the park rather than having an annual pass. The annual pass, for example, right now here in Florida still includes parking. If I had to pay $25, $30 every time I just drove over to property and drove over by myself, which is usually the way I visit, that's going to add up real quickly. And at that point, when you add that $25, $30 to the price of a Florida ticket, so maybe I visit a handful of times. I mean, frankly, during the pandemic, I haven't been going a lot anyway. I've maintained my annual pass. The price point at that point becomes great. If I'm going over 5 times in a week and paying $30 to park, that becomes objectionable to me. On the other hand, if it's a matter of, well, there's these add-ons that I'm not fond of paying extra for, but every now and then I'll splurge for it. I'm fine with that, right? I got friends coming into town and they want to ride Rise of the Resistance with me. Okay, every now and then I'd be willing to pay extra to ride Rise of the Resistance. Every now and then I'd be willing to pay extra for Genie Plus. All of those things as add-ons, as an every now and then thing, don't affect how I handle my going on as an annual pass holder. But Adrian, why don't you talk about the new Magic Keys? I mean, we don't know what the Florida annual pass program is going to look like going forward. I know that I renewed mine and it's good until next June. So until next June, I'm not thinking about it again. I paid 100% for my my renewal back in April for this coming year, and I'm all set. What's the story out in California now,
Well,
Adrian?
it's interesting though that you talk about that. With at what point do you stop buying annual passes? Because I'm actually there with my kids right now. When and it actually is for exactly the same reason that Alan mentioned. Um, for me right now, I have an annual pass, or I mean, I will have an annual pass when keys are available again. Um, but we're not buying them for my kids right now because we are going. Um, right now, we found that it is just better to do the promotional ticket for the kids and go, the 2 times a year or whatever that those are available. It is less expensive to do it that way. I'll have parking on my annual pass, and so that's less of a issue, is that I'll have parking and I'll have the discounts on my annual pass. And that way it's more special for the kids, and there's also less of a thing of, "Oh my gosh, we have to go every weekend because we have to get our money's worth of it." Because it's interesting what happened during the pandemic. When I couldn't go to Disneyland every day, when we didn't go to Disneyland every day, all of a sudden there was all this other stuff going on out there. Okay, I exaggerate, but it really did put some things into perspective. And so for us, it's because we've decided that we're just going to make the annual passes or the Disneyland visits a little more special for the kids. And we're going to look at some other things. Disney is still huge in my world. I mean, it is if you could see my house, it's every factor of my life. But I want we're I kind of enjoying the little break that we have there to help put some things into perspective. And for us right now, spending $800 per kid on an annual passes doesn't make sense. So that's where we're at with that. Magic Keys, though. Coming up next week, we've got the Magic Keys going on sale at the Disneyland Resort. I expect whatever program Walt Disney World rolls out is not going to look terribly different in the future. I said it on this show, 100 times, that I fully expected that whatever program that the Disneyland Resort came out with to replace the annual passes was going to be a variation on the Flex Pass that we had here, and the variables were going to be how many reservations you could hold at a time, how far in advance you could make them, and how many blockout days the ticket had. And that ended up being exactly what happened. I'm actually not all that disappointed with the program the way that it came out. We knew it was going to be reservation based. It had to be reservation based. That has been the thing that Disney launched onto the second with the pandemic hit. They were able to dump the old annual pass holder program, is because they never knew how many pass holders were going to show up. And you would have these situations where on a Friday night, you would have so many pass holders trying to come to the Disneyland Resort that it would back traffic up onto the nearby freeways and all the way up the 5 and almost to Knott's Berry Farm in some cases. That famous One More Disney Day where they had to close the gates because there were so many pass holders coming and there were people driving 2 hours around just to find parking. They can end that now. Those days are gone. They know how many pass holders are coming on a given day because they can control how many pass holders are coming on a given day. They know how many of them have parking allocation. They know how much parking revenue they're likely to generate. All of these variables that they had no control over under the former program, they now have complete control over. So reservations absolutely had to happen. Alan, did you want to bring up the info on the different keys? I saw that you had that pulled up.
Yeah, I was gonna slide it up. Hang on.
And I'm guessing that most of the people watching are Florida, because I'm not seeing a ton of questions on
about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So if there are
I mean,
questions on
there
it,
hasn't been an announcement. Let me put myself back on screen here.
Yeah.
There hasn't been an announcement of a new Premier Pass good on both coasts, right?
there isn't one at this time.
And I mean, the old version of the Premier Pass was not a particularly good financial value. It was the top rate on the Disneyland AP plus the top rate on the Florida AP. That
Right.
equaled the Disneyland Disney World Premier Pass.
Right. Yeah, it was the two highest prices together, and then plus, I don't know, $20 for the fun of it.
Something like that. And I don't believe like DVC discounts kicked in or resident discounts, obviously.
Nope.
So it was just, if you wanted the pass for both parks, it was
Yep.
top rate. So if somebody wants the equivalent of the Premier Pass going forward, when Florida starts selling annual passes, you buy your Florida annual pass. And when Disneyland's keys go on sale on the 25th, you
Mm-hmm.
buy a key, and now you have the equivalent of what was
Yep.
in existence before.
Yep.
But here's from Adrian's article earlier this month, the quick breakdown of the keys. Go ahead, Adrian.
All right, so Dream Key, the highest one, no blockout dates, 6 reservations at a time, 90-day reservation window, 20% merchandise discount, 15% food and beverage, and it comes with parking. It's the only one that comes with parking included. And again, parking is a huge challenge here, especially since the second parking structure, the one across the street, didn't get built. We've just got the Pixar Pal and Mickey and Friends, and so parking is a challenge here. And so this way they're going to be able to hopefully encourage more people to carpool, which was a huge problem previously. Next laying down is going to be the Dream Key, or I'm sorry, the Believe Key. And that one is, if you don't want to go during Christmas, this is really the great one to have. It has more blockout dates, and most of it is going to be the holiday periods that you don't want to come anyway. Same thing, 6 reservations at a time, 90 days in advance, a little bit less of a merchandise discount. And then this one gives you a 50% parking discount. I truly, truly believe that the reason that they're doing it as a 50% parking discount is to encourage pass holders to carpool so that not everybody is taking their own car. So I really think that's why it's a discount as opposed to included parking. And they're going to, just try to get people to carpool. Go down to the Enchant Key. This is the least expensive of the passes available to out-of-staters. But it's blocked out. It's only good basically 200 days out of the year. You can have 4 reservations at a time instead of 6. Make your reservations 90 days in advance. Food and beverage discounts, merchandise discounts, no parking entitlement, which means you're going to be paying $20 to $25 to park every single time that you come. So this one is,
or you'll be paying whichever hotel you're staying at, and then for that bus that comes from those Anaheim hotels.
Correct, the art. And then you've got the Imagine Key. Now this is the SoCal Pass. We call this the Preschooler Pass. This is what the mommies with the preschoolers that drop the big kids off at school and then take their preschooler, to the park for an hour or two, Monday through Thursday, like $400. It is basically only good Monday through Thursday off season. You can make 2 reservations at a time, 90 days in advance, a little bit of food, a little bit of food and beverage discount. Again, no parking on this one, which means that trip to Disneyland when you've dropped your older kid off at school is now $25. So be curious to see how this one goes. This also may be a walking distance pass or an Uber. Maybe it's cheaper to take an Uber. I don't know. So it'll be interesting to see how this one goes. There are a lot.
We got a question. We got a question about
yeah.
military discounts. I have not seen any new information here in Florida. Is there any information out in California yet?
No information on discounts whatsoever on annual passes for Florida or Disneyland.
Okay.
So there are still some questions that we have about the Dream Key. And I'm waiting for Disney to get back to me on some of these things. And I'm hoping to get all that information into the park update on Monday. One of them has to do with the upgrade from an existing multi-day ticket. We all know that you cannot upgrade the California resident ticket to a Dream Key or to any of the keys. And so that's been disappointing for people that bought that ticket, but we also kind of knew that was going to happen. So I'm not surprised.
Does that mean those tickets have no cash value? Like you can't
They have
go
no
to
cash
Disney
value.
Yeah.
Use them or lose them. And now the good news is that if you bought that ticket through Getaway Today is offering you the ability to exchange that promotional ticket for a multi-day hopper of a higher value, and then that ticket you can use to upgrade to a key. So if you bought through Getaway Today, there's an option there. But if you bought that directly through Disney, there's not. It's use it or lose it. We're waiting to find out if you use a multi-day ticket, if you upgrade that to an annual pass, does that count as your down payment, or do you have to, so that you're then eligible for monthly payments, or do you have to pay the entire balance, the entire difference at once? Because I've actually seen two conflicting things, both officially from Disney. So I'm waiting for clarification on that. The other is whether or not the parking entitlement, either free or discounted, is valid on a day that you do not have a park reservation. And again, I have seen official information from Disney giving both answers. So those are things that we're waiting on.
And you and I have talked about the same here in Florida. It's not clear to me whether I can still use my parking privileges at the parks as a pass holder without a park reservation. I haven't tried. In the past, you certainly could just park anywhere and take the bus, take the monorail, whatever. Every time I've gone to the parks, at least in 2021, and probably back last year, but I don't recall. When you get to the parking toll plaza, the first question they ask after asking for my ID to go along with my annual pass is, do I have a park reservation? And I believe they're asking that because they don't want guests walking all the way up to the park and then being turned around. And it suggests to me that they can't see park reservations in the apps they're using to check our APs when we come in. But it could mean that maybe on a day I don't have a park reservation, I'm also not allowed to park. I'm not 100% sure, and I haven't had a reason to try it out.
We're waiting to find out. And Damien, yes, welcome to the show. You joined us a little bit late, and yes, what they did at Disneyland Paris is happening in both California and Walt Disney World starting sometime this fall. We don't know exactly when.
Well, but it's not happening at the same scale as it happened in Paris, where every ride is pay or play.
It's not pay or play for everything.
Right.
Yeah. So.
The other thing you and I talked about before the show were the latest in health and safety changes in the parks. And just today here in Florida, I heard on the local news, and I went to the My Disney Experience app to make sure I saw it from an official place as well as the local news. Masks are now optional outdoors just about everywhere at Walt Disney World. And the change there is that previously, when you were in a queue for an attraction, as soon as you got to whatever the official start of the queue was, not the extended queue, but the official queue. So like for Disneylanders, when you went through the gates towards Haunted Mansion, that would be the official queue. We have Haunted Mansion gates as well. That would be the point at which you'd have to put the face mask on. Now, the outdoor portion of outdoor queues, it's also optional. And apparently most outdoor attractions, it's also optional. So I imagine like the safari truck may now be mask optional. The examples I heard on the news were the outdoor venue shows. The outdoor venue show that reopened this last week, the Beauty and the Beast show, that's an outdoor amphitheater setting. The bird show, whatever it's called now, at Animal Kingdom is another example of an outdoor show. Those venues are now mask optional. And I guess the American Gardens Theater at Epcot, that would be another outdoor only venue.
Makes perfect sense to me. I mean, after all, your COVID numbers are great in Florida. Your hospitalization numbers are great. Makes perfect sense to me. I can totally understand why they would ease restrictions.
And as I wrote in this week's update, the concern I have is as our hospitals fill up, and I've written this more than once in our updates, as our hospitals fill up, you can get to a point where what would be a routine bus accident, attraction accident, other sort of car accident, or other sort of thing that was routine even before the pandemic can become a tragedy if there's no hospital space.
Yeah.
And at what point, how does Disney address that? Because we're not at the point here in Florida where they've started putting up tent hospitals. There was a discussion of this on our local news the other day. We're not at that point yet, but we are at the point where, especially here in Central Florida, the hospitals are pretty darn crowded.
Yeah. Most of our tent hospitals are down here in California. They've, or at least Southern California, our 10 hospitals have all been backed up. But what is interesting is that in Los Angeles County, They actually just went back to an outdoor mask mandate for mega events, so 10,000 people or more. But that included parades and marathons, because I want to win a marathon in a mask. But they specifically excluded theme parks, which was really interesting, and I'm sure Universal was happy about that. But so as your mask mandates are loosening in Florida, we're actually seeing them get tougher here in California again. So,
Well, and what's interesting about it is Disney is still to this moment stricter than the state of Florida on
good,
all of its health and safety measures.
good, in my
And
opinion, good.
I was going to say, and I would expect it's going to stay that way. So seeing that loosening this week in light of the numbers was a little surprising. But also, having said that, when I was in the park 2 weeks ago, yes, the rule was you were required to wear masks in the outdoor queues. There was a cast member at the entrance of the queue checking and telling guests to put it on. And I would say 85% or better of the guests, as soon as they got past that cast member, went and took it off again.
Yeah,
So I mean, and it's 100 degrees in the shade here in Florida at this time of year. It's the worst time of year to be outdoors in a mask, no question.
yeah,
And my solution to that is I limit how often I've gone over to the parks, and I limit my times in contact with other guests.
yep.
That's how I'm trying to handle it. I don't know that we have anything else to cover. Do we, Adrian? Are there any other questions? I haven't seen any more. I did appreciate the nice comment we got from Maria in
Thanks,
Arizona.
Maria.
Thank you. I said thank you in the chat when I had a chance.
Yep.
Adrian and Alan, thanks from Liz. Okay. Anything else, Adrian? Anything else
No,
that
I've
folks
got to
need
go
to
pick
know?
up a kid now. So I'm going to go be a mom now. Done being a
All right,
Disney
everyone.
expert. Going to go be a mom.
What's super funny here, and I wish folks at home could see this, but I'm not going to put it on screen. Todd Pickering left, but he left his camera on. So if we
Oh,
want to know what's going on in his apartment, it's in
no,
a
you
little
don't.
box right below the screen.
Bye, everybody. Catch you next
So
time.
goodbye. Take care. Let me play our ender. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for joining us on Mouse Planet Live. We'll do another live one of these days. Take
One of
care.
these
Bye-bye.
days.